G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Trewin. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Sophie Doyle from Alf The Label, based in beautiful Fremantle, Australia. Thanks for your time today, Sophie.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Let's start with how we know each other. I think I saw you in a smart company. They send daily emails, newsletters of exciting businesses and business news around Australia. And then I reached out to you on LinkedIn.
You did.
Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
So my business is Alf The Label. We sell everyday luxury bags and accessories. Originally, so they're all for stylish women, but originally we started out as a parenting brand and we've sort of evolved the brand over time. And now as my parenting journey has sort of evolved, we're now selling product to all stylish women, parenting or not.
Right. And just here in Australia, or you're exporting?
No, actually, we're about 70% US customer, about 30% Australia now. We started out purely Australia, but we've scaled really heavily into the US in the past 12 months.
Oh, fantastic. And how did you start out?
So originally I was a marketing and PR person. That was my first career. I started my brand basically when I was on maternity leave with my first child. I couldn't find any baby bag that I really loved, so I didn't want to invest in something that I wasn't going to use or something that I didn't like or didn't think that I would have used pre-kids. So I was on maternity leave and I started this, what I thought was going to be a very small side hustle market stall sort of project, and it really just blew up from there.
Fantastic. And what year did you start out and how old were you then?
I was 31 and my daughter was born in 2015, but I started the brand officially 2016.
And do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business over the last 8 years?
Yeah, so it's been almost exactly 8 years. It'll be 8 years this month. And the original, I think our first year we turned over around 350,000, which is pretty significant considering it was just me living on my couch with my newborn. And we've had very great organic growth in the first few years, and then we really started to supercharge it in the last few years. So the last few years we've doubled in size each year. And now we do an average month is roughly what we did in the first entire year. So
wow. So that's like cracking around close to 4 million a year.
Yeah.
That's well done. That's terrific growth.
Thanks.
What about number of full-time equivalent team members you started with and where you're at now?
I started with just me. And actually I was full-time when I was on maternity leave because although really, how can you be full-time in anything when you have a newborn? Then I actually went back to my corporate job part-time after I'd finished my maternity leave. So then my business was in the evenings when, after work, I'd come home, pack orders, those sorts of things. And eventually when I had my second baby, I actually took a voluntary redundancy from my job, which I felt was a great big sign from the universe that I just needed to, buckle down and actually give this brand my time and energy. And then I've been full-time in the business since.
That's great. And number of full-time equivalent team members now?
Now we've got a part-time and full-time workforce. So we're around 6.5 FTE. Then external staff as well, because we outsource our warehousing to a 3PL.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. Assume you've made that move now. It was one of the first bits of advice I gave to Tim from Flat Tummy Tea 11 years ago when I started mentoring him. I said, it's fine initially for the first few months to do it yourself, but for the love of God, get that into a 3PL as quickly as possible because you're not a distribution company, you're a marketing company, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. We actually made the move to 3PL just at the very beginning of COVID, which was a godsend because in Perth, we're quite isolated. So having our own warehouse meant that the postal service, like getting parcels across the Nullarbor, was becoming problematic. It was taking a really long time. I was really worried about our 1 to 2 people that we had working in our warehouse here. If they got sick, what would happen then? The entire business would stop. So we made a fairly quick decision. Fortunately, we'd started to already look into 3PL prior to that, but it was meant to be in our 2-year plan. So then we brought it into our 2-month plan and literally just barcoded everything and sent it over east, and we've been there ever since.
And for the international audience, so Fremantle is it's a city, isn't it? It's not a suburb of Perth, but Perth is the most remote capital in the world. It's so far away.
Yes, it is so far away. Yeah. So yeah, whereas our office is in Fremantle, which is it's part of the port city actually. So Perth City is the CBD, and then the WA is pretty spread out, but then Fremantle is a small city at the port.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
Really, for me, my vision for the brand had always been that I wanted to really close this gap between ugly parenting things and ready to wear fashion. Like, I didn't want women to have to buy and wear ugly, what we would consider ugly maternity clothing and accessories just because we were having a baby. I wanted to have something that you'd see on a runway or you'd see in a beautiful bricks and mortar store, that kind of thing. So the moment that I really felt like I had absolutely nailed that was when we did New York Fashion Week last year. We were the first parenting brand ever to be invited to a runway show. And I just really felt like everything that I'd been working towards for the prior 7 years really had sort of culminated at that point.
Wow, that's a tremendous achievement. Well done.
Thank you.
What does success look like to you?
Being profitable. I think turnover can be a really bad indicator of success, but I think there's a lot of brands out there that are turning over multi-million dollars in revenue, but they're, zero profit. So for me, being profitable and becoming profitable was a really important point in our business journey. We were really profitable at the beginning because we had no overheads. I was literally on my couch in my studio at the back of my house, to now we've got office and staff and all of these overheads. So there was a moment in time in the business journey where we were really unprofitable, and then we've now sort of come back out of that, which has been a really hard job, but we've got there, and I think that's really a testament to the determination that I've had throughout the last 8 years. And aside from that as well, I think personally my success, I feel like it's giving my kids the opportunities that we can give them. Luke, my husband, and I, who also works in the business, we work really, really hard. And, to be able to give our kids everything that maybe we didn't get when we were children. And, yeah, just to be able to as well set a really good example for them as entrepreneurs and show them that you can, if you work really hard and you're super passionate, that you can achieve really amazing things.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Know your numbers, get really granular with all of the numbers, all the metrics, rely a lot more on data than I probably started the brand very much on a whim and gut feeling. And I think there's a lot to be said for gut feel and making sure that you're doing things authentically, but knowing your data and knowing your numbers is so, so important.
And so I assume you know your two critical marketing numbers, LTV, lifetime value, and your CAC, customer acquisition cost.
Yeah, we do, but we actually focus more on making sure that our fixed costs are really low, making sure our variable costs are stable, and looking at our MER, which is our marketing efficiency ratio, and ensuring that we're not spending too much to advertise the brand and acquire that customer.
Yep. The LTV to CAC ratio should be three to one, no greater than 5 to 1, which I've written about in an ebook, our marketing funding flywheel. Include a link into the show notes for the audience. Really powerful because once you know those numbers, you've got confidence to scale to keep tipping money into marketing.
Exactly.
How did you fund your business?
Initially, it was funded with some savings that I had. Back when I first started, I had I'm trying to recall how many. It was only a few thousand to basically invest in the stock, and I sold the initial run of bags on pre-order because I didn't have the money to be able to fund the entire production. So I took a pretty big risk there, but it paid off. And since then, we've been self-funding. We did do a small virtual capital raise a few years ago, which got us about 150K, which allowed us to buy a bit deeper into some really best-selling stock that we were selling at the time. We've got an overdraft from our bank. We've used Shopify Capital before. But yeah, it's a sort of melting pot of whatever works at the time.
So no other investors yet, apart from the small crowdfund investors. And you're exporting. Are you tapping the EMDG, Export Marketing Development Grant?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, great. That's a very good one. What about the export finance loan? Are you aware of that?
No, no, I should look into that one.
I'll send you a link to it, but basically, the federal government will loan you money. So I think it's for up to about 6 months at a reasonable interest rate for you to cover until your distributor overseas or however you get paid from your export sales drops in your bank account.
Oh, love the sound of that.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
No. Bags, bags and leather goods. I didn't think of this at the time because I think my business acumen is pretty low grade compared to what it is today. But bags and leather accessories, particularly big bags, which we sell, baby bags, a diaper bag generally is a pretty bulky item. So they're expensive to produce, they're expensive to ship, they're expensive to store, they're expensive to send to the customer. Like all of the things that if you were going to really plan an e-commerce business from the ground up, all of those check boxes would not be ticked. So having said that, I love what I do. I love designing the product. I'm obsessed with leather goods and accessories. So I really do enjoy it. And we obviously just have to make the downsides work for us.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Probably managing cash flow, especially during hard times, obviously when we're not profitable. I think my husband and I have had to fund a lot of the shortfalls ourselves, which has put on a lot of pressure, in our personal finances. Having said that, we did that with eyes wide open. There were other options that we could have taken, but we were really keen to try and keep the business our own at that time. So we did what we can to sort of manage that cash flow and those pinch points. And probably in the harder times, making sure that my team, like I'm really, really committed to making sure my team weren't going to lose their job during COVID and things like that. We did whatever we could to be able to keep our amazing team employed.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Probably profitability. I felt like the brand started so organically and it was almost easy in the beginning, with no overheads, you can make profit quite quickly and easily, particularly with a higher price point product. I mean, our production cost is also quite high. So really it's relative rather. But I'd say profitability, particularly as the brand grew and we knew that we needed more systems and processes and infrastructure and people to be able to then grow to that next level, maintaining the profitability was really important.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
It's a silly one. Probably selling things too quickly. As particularly with our product range, we have this particular range of products where the customer gets to choose a carabiner, which is a brass ring, and then they select all of these products and these accessories that go onto the brass ring to create a little bundle. And it is inevitably incredibly difficult to manage the stock turn of that range because everybody buys something different. Not everyone's buying exactly the same bundle. So therefore, it's really stressful trying to manage, say 25 different SKUs in that range and what people are actually going to buy and what combinations they're going to buy. I find that really stressful. We have an amazing buying manager who takes a lot of that stress off of me now. But even so, like fast growth, we might scale up a bit further and then all of a sudden something else starts selling and we weren't quite, we weren't ahead of that because there was no way to tell. So it's kind of chasing our tail a lot. That's probably the hardest bit.
Well, how many SKUs roughly do you have?
We on probably about over 100 active SKUs at one time. Yeah.
Yeah, great. What do you love most about growing a small business?
So many things. Having the flexibility to be able to work with my husband actually which surprises a lot of people. A lot of people ask me, "Oh, how can you work together?" We literally sit next to each other. But I think probably having the flexibility to be able to work with him, share those stresses, share the wins, all of the nice things as well as the hard times. He manages very different part of the business to me. So we don't sort of bicker about crossover of responsibilities and things like that, which is great. And then as well, us as a couple being able to provide our kids with the same flexibility. If it's school holidays, one of us can work from home and we don't have to ask anybody, we're the boss. So, you get those benefits too, being able to go to school assemblies and sports carnivals and things without feeling guilty to your employer because you're taking time off, and then, or guilty to your children for not giving them enough time.
I heard an interesting stat earlier this year. Obviously, most people know the divorce rate's over 50%, but the divorce rate of those a married couple or people that are together de facto working together in a business is only 10%.
Oh, that's so interesting. You'd think it would be the opposite way around.
Exactly. Yeah. What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Probably that literally anything is possible. When you start a small business, again, I think I mentioned it before, I started with this mindset that it was always going to be a little hobby business, and it's exceeded my expectations, it's exceeded my husband's expectations, and I think that really if you put your mind to it and if you're passionate and determined, you can literally do anything. It's quite incredible.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Oh, resilience for sure. There's ups and downs every day of the week. And if you're not resilient, I think it's too easy to walk away when there's still, opportunity left.
Are you a small business owner who is ready to take your professional growth to the next level? Sign up to the Grow a Small Business weekly newsletter. This is your go-to email every Friday and will take about 2 minutes to read. Join the Grow a Small Business community who, like you, are investing in their professional development. Each week, we curate valuable resources, whether it's expert advice, books, podcasts, industry insights, or actionable strategies. We've got you covered. Leave your email at growasmallbusiness.com/weekly. Can you talk about how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
For specialist roles, I would headhunt. We've done that recently, and that's worked out really well for us. It's a lot of the time you advertise a role and you just get a plethora of applications that are, inappropriate people for that particular role. So it's a time suck. So headhunting for specialist roles for sure. And also just don't rush into employing the first person with a heartbeat, because I think when you're growing really quickly and you're worried about getting bums on seats because you've, got so many things that you want these people to do, if you just hire someone because they're there at the time, you might be making a very costly and stressful, bad decision.
Absolutely. Don't suffer the warm body syndrome. I just need anyone now to help with the workload. And if you've got a B or a C player or a toxic asshole, you soon pay for it. And you've really got to take your time. And that's why we put together a 2-week short course, online course, to help small business owners become better at recruitment, because often they don't invest in their own professional development and just rush it.
100%, or just employ people that they know just because they know them, and sometimes that can go really well, sometimes it can go really badly. So being careful.
What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
I think obviously there's a lot of challenges with small business, budgets and things, you can't do a lot of the things that larger companies would be able to do to sort of, build that culture. But I think for us as a small business, it's just making sure that the people that you work for you feel like family. They enjoy coming to work. They feel heard. Try and figure out what they like, what's their love language, do more of that, spoil them where you can. A lot of the time, if cash flow is hard in a small business, it can be challenging, but there's so many just little ways that you can make people feel appreciated. And I think that is what really drives a good, healthy small business culture.
Hello, audience, how you've handled balance?
Sometimes I feel like I don't do this very well. I go to Pilates as many times a week as I possibly can. I go to the sauna where I feel like I can actually switch off. There's no phones in there. I have to just sit there and do nothing, which I find difficult. So I really enjoy that. Hobbies, I've got reading and, like I said, Pilates and puzzles and things that can kind of help me to zone out of work, because my mind is just constantly turning, ideas flowing out of my brain at 24/7.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
Probably not as much as I should have. I'm an avid reader, so I read a lot of books, professional development books and things like that. I've had coaches over the years. I've had mentors, like paid and unpaid. But not so much structured courses, because right now I find that I'm very time poor, so that sort of thing doesn't fit into my daily life. But certainly having a group of people, a network and a community of people and other business owners that I can lean on is really important.
Great. So mentors or coaches, and do you have a board of directors or advisors?
We don't officially have a board of directors, but we do have certain people that we would, if we were to establish a board, they would 100% be our first picks of board members. And we lean on them as much as we can to help us, guide us in tricky decisions.
Great. All right. So if you want to do a final 5 questions, what do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Oh, hardest thing of growing a small business. Just having to keep going, even when it's hard, just having that, getting up in the morning and just think, I am tired. I don't know if I can do this today. And just having to keep going because there's no one else to do it. You can't, it's unlike being an employee, you could take some annual leave, but it's with small business, it's just constant. So yeah, probably just perseverance.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
This is a great question. There's a book called Traction, which I read recently, which actually the author.
Gino Wickman, yep.
There were some really good nuggets of info in that one, which I quite enjoyed. Yeah, I think that's probably the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah, it's a great book. Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
Podcasts, I flit around with podcasts. I often will listen to a podcast that's been recommended from someone else, or I've seen it on socials, somebody that I follow has been on a podcast. So then I'll listen to that. So not one specific that I will listen to every single episode, because I like to kind of share it around a bit. And online business tools, I'm part of an amazing coaching group that, my business coaches and a network of other brands that are at a similar stage in their business journey to me, which I really value very, very highly.
Right. Are they e-commerce specific?
Yeah.
Yep. Great. One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
One tool. Probably AI. Mainly because then I think, well, it doesn't replace people. And I'm a marketer by trade. We as marketing people, you need a lot of creative ideas. You can, dump a question into AI and it can give you a kind of a starting point. But I think if you were a small business and you needed more people and you just didn't have them, it's a great tool to be able to kind of expedite things if you don't have an actual human person to come up with those ideas or those concepts or those policies or whatever it is. You can get a good starting point using a bit of AI.
When did ChatGPT come out? It was almost 2 years ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, one of my degrees is computing, and about a third, maybe half of my companies that I've owned are tech companies. And I still haven't opened that can of worms after 2 years because no one will see me for 3 or 4 weeks because I'm just get lost down that rabbit hole, I know.
Really is. Yeah. I find it particularly useful from a business standpoint where we've done things like got some data, our Instagram data and our sort of demographics, our audience demographics and things like that, and loaded all of those documents into the AI and then asked it questions. I find from a marketing standpoint, that's quite helpful, but not so much to kind of do everything for you because it's pretty rough and ready, really. Like the language that it uses is never really tone of voice.
Yep. Finally, my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out 8 years ago?
Just keep going. It'll be worth it one day, but just keep on going.
Great. Thanks so much for your time today, Sophie. I've really enjoyed our chat. Congratulations to you, Luke, and the rest of the team. Phenomenal growth, 300 grand in your first year, around close to either side of 4 million at the moment. 1 FTE yourself now to 6.5, doing great things. That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.